morning, everybody, and welcome to Wealth is a Team Sport. We are going to have an amazing show today. Our guest is Aileen Day, all the way here from Australia. So we're going to be talking about really cool things. One of the things that really drew me to her when I met her was her talk about accountability. And that struck me with my business. Accountability is everything. And it was just funny. I just got off a meeting with a client. And she's struggling a little bit because she's overwhelmed with all her work. And I said, okay, so how do I help you help yourself? So we're going to dig into a little bit of that. But for anyone who's new to the show, welcome. This is a show that I do as part of my business. And I'm also launching a book called Money Moves, Changing Where Your Money Lives, Changes How Your Finances Grow. But one of the foundational things that I really believe is part of my business is that you're better together. And when you have a team of experts around you, everything just works out better because it's so hard when you try to do everything yourself. And I just think life is hard enough. So when you can learn from somebody else, take advantage of that. So at least you don't have to make those mistakes. So just want to get everybody primed. We're going to be talking today about accountability and people. Aileen does coaching, and you're going to learn about all that in just a minute. So Aileen, let me just do a brief bio and then welcome you onto the call. We're so excited to have you. So Aileen Day is Australia's premium customer experience advocate, consultant, mentor, coach, speaker, and she's globally recognized as a certified customer experience practitioner, helping your organization deliver experiences that are worthy of your customers' loyalty. And Aileen is the voice of your customers, and they're ready to be heard. So Aileen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It is so lovely to hang out with you again, Tara. Thank you for having me.
So, I just wanted to kind of just touch base with that. I love how you kind of do a little bit of everything. You're the mentoring, the coaching. You've taken all this life experience and you've kind of pulled it together, but it seems to me like there's got to be something in there that you're interested kind of in how people tick and what makes them work. So when did that start for you?
I think, to be honest, I am the oldest of 6 kids. And so
you're the bossy one.
Yeah. So my parents always left me in charge, and my younger siblings would always say, I can't do that. And I'm like, yes, you can. Yes, you can, because I didn't want to do it. So I would, from an early age, I was very encouraging of people's potential, and wanting to see them rise to the occasion and believe in themselves. And really, that has pushed me through every part of my career. Where it's needed someone to kind of see the potential within themselves, but maybe they don't see it fast enough. I'm there kind of like, you've got this. We're going to make this happen, and this is how we're going to do it. And I'm going to show you that you can do this too. Because I get a lot of people going, oh, I wish I could do what you do. I'm like, you can. Right. You absolutely can.
I love how you said that. Like, you can see people's ability or what they could do even when they can't see themselves. So like, that's just begging for a story. Do you have like a story that you could share with us about something that happened? You're like, oh, this person, if they would just listen to me.
Oh, all the time. I get a little bit frustrated. Like everyone that coaches, you have those people who, if they only just listen to you, but at the same time, what I've come to learn in my wise old age is that they have to be ready, right? So the amount of time I actually now get my clients to sign an accountability contract, they have to be ready and willing to want the help. They have to be ready and willing to want to listen, because, to be honest, if they're not going to go anywhere. And then the first port of call is they're going to blame you. So when they don't get anywhere. But it is fascinating. I've had clients in the past who probably weren't ready to take on that level of accountability that I provide, and they went off and they did the work themselves, knowing what they had to do. Like, we set them up on a foundation that was going to get them where they wanted to be. Just, again, like you said in the intro, when you've got that support, you can do it with so much less friction. But they chose the friction. And I said, that's fine. You choose the friction. And, they're just now getting where they want to be, but they're probably added 3 years onto that path for them and a lot more money. So
Right.
you're right. So, sometimes we get really concerned about how we're going to invest our money, or we don't see that investing in ourselves is viable, when in my mind, like, you're the prize. You are the most important reason to invest. So I think, I really have learned that some people just aren't ready. And if they are consistently not kind of taking your advice, then just let them go. Let them be, and they will meet you when they're ready.
I love that. And so you just sparked a question that I have to ask now, because I was just having this conversation with one of my clients, and I kind of sat down and I said, oh, okay. So what is really your motivation here? Are you more worried about the fees, or are you more interested in the outcome? Because it sounds like a lot of your objections are really wrapped up around fees, even though this outcome is going to be better for you. And I think now that you're saying that might just tie into when somebody's ready. Have you ever had a conversation like that where people get wrapped, like you're saying, it costs people more money to wait and try to do it themselves, but sometimes they're not ready, so they just need to have that friction?
Yeah, absolutely. I literally just had it only a few weeks ago. So, they thought they wanted to come and essentially come and play with me, and because it's all fun and games over here. It's a lot of bloody work. But in the end, they decided that they were going to go down another avenue, because as I said, I am the premium choice when it comes to learning about customer experience in Australia. There's really less than a dozen people who know or have the certifications that I have, let alone no one has the experience that I have, right? So that is an asset to me. And anyway, so they decided that they wanted to go down another avenue, and all I can do is wish them the best, because for me, that is, a great realization that they're not ready for me. And to be honest, you have to be ready for me. You have to have drawn the line in the sand and have stepped over that line and gone, all right, this has to happen. And I've had customers in the past who have exactly like you, who they're like, oh, and to me, that's also an opportunity for me to look kind of at my services and introspectively look at making sure that I'm delivering value to each person the way they deem value to, it's value is very subjective. We all know that. But at the same time, I kind of make sure that I am delivering what I promised I would deliver up front. So if that is what I'm doing, and then they start going, oh, I kind of go, hang on a minute, this is what we agreed was value in the beginning. Where are we going off course with this, that you now aren't considering that valuable and now only have the price in mind? So it's a real opportunity to have a conversation about what's shifting for them in their mind as far as value that they're receiving.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So the next thing I kind of wanted to delve into, that coming from talking about value, is, you and I had a nice discussion about accountability. And accountability, I think it's just part of success in life. It doesn't even just have to be for business. But, one of the funny things that we used to talk about in my other world was, if you create this big plan, back when we used to use paper, and you'd make these nice binders with all the pretty graphs, and then you take that great plan and then you would stick it up on the shelf, and we called it shelfware.
Shelfware, yeah, I love that.
So I want to talk a little bit about how you dig into accountability, because that really kind of gets into people's emotions and their chili in a very personal way.
Oh, absolutely. And that is probably out of all of so I run what's called the Momentum Business Accelerator program, right? And that is high accountability. Like, I will be sitting on my couch and a thought will come into my mind at like 9 o'clock at night, and I will message my client and ask them a question about the work that they're doing. So they constantly realize that what they're paying for is me to be on all the time and thinking about them and specifically how they can improve their performance, improve their business. So I talk a lot about becoming a value-driven brand. And so I say to them, like, I'm going to push you to become not just a business, but a value-driven brand. And that means I'm always going to be on you, and it's not like your mum nagging at you. It's like, for example, the other week I was watching TV, and I'm one of those weird people who still watch normal TV.
Oh, wow.
And I watch the ads. So, and an ad came up for a similar organization, but it was a really interesting take on that organization. And so I contacted my client and I said, you need to go and take a look at these guys and see what they're doing. Make sure that you're staying ahead of them, right? And it was like 9:15 at night, and they were like, aren't you spending time with your family? I'm like, I am, but I'm multitasking, even though some people think that's rubbish. But, I am. I'm always kind of thinking about, right, what can we do to improve their performance? And then how do I make sure that they actually take that seriously? So in the MBA, for example, we have weekly catch-ups where it's expected everybody will turn up and they have to submit their weekly goals, and they have to be really great goals. They can't just be, I'm going to meet 5 clients this week. Well, that's your job. So what are you doing above and beyond that to actually achieve your vision, right? So everything has to be above and beyond your everyday, grind to make sure that you are working towards and I hold you accountable. And then the other great thing is that herd accountability. They don't want to let down the herd. So they don't want to, they don't want to piss off the rest of the group. Sorry. They don't want to upset the rest of the group by being late they have to submit their priorities by 10 a.m. every Monday. So they don't want to look like the bad guy and be late. They want to make sure that they have got their information and their goals set up properly so that they don't have me going, this is what you need to do differently. And now I need you to go back and change it, because I make them go and change it on the spot if their goals are too lazy.
Yeah.
Right? So they know now, and especially if they're new to the group, they quickly realize we're not here to muck around. Like, we're here. It's called an accelerator for a reason. And there are some people who have come through that group who ultimately they thought they were ready to be held to that level of accountability, but it actually brings up so much emotion for people when you are being held accountable, because it really is, like you would know yourself, when somebody shines a light on you and says, hey, why didn't you do this? You said you were going to do this. What was the friction? What was the problem? Why didn't you do what you said you would do? Right? There's this like, crunchiness, and you're like under the spotlight, and you feel, depending on how it's delivered, of course it's not, it's done with love. It has to be done with love, right? I want to see them succeed. And then, though, it can still bring up a whole lot of stuff for the people involved. And if they start to, I had one client who started to think that she was just disappointing me time after time. And I said, you're not disappointing me. You're disappointing yourself. And then I probably sounded like my mum. But it can be really confronting to be held accountable. So, but the reality is, and I've always been a firm believer, even when I went into business for myself, 6 years ago, that we all need a boss. right? We all need, and it's not a boss, like we don't need someone micromanaging us, but we all need someone just to make us pull our socks up and say, you've got a wonderful PA. I'm sure your PA's coming to you and saying, Tara, have you invited those guests yet? Or, Tara, have you got the script, or have you, so you've got someone holding you accountable every day. And, whether you work for yourself, I reckon actually, especially if you work for yourself, you need somebody in that accountability and support space that's going to help pull you along. And very quickly, if you're ready for it, that friction starts to diminish because you start to realize what you can actually achieve on top of every other piece of work that you do during the day or night, whenever you work. We're a flexible working community.
I totally get what you're saying. And I'm working with a book launch company. And in my last meeting, like I'm pretty a tough person. I don't ever get emotional. And they made me cry because they were, like you said, they were holding me accountable, but with love. And I was just like, oh, and it was so hard
because rubbish because you didn't deliver what you said you would deliver. So that's like this incongruence of, your integrity essentially. And for me, it's also a really great opportunity to kind of teach people not to bite off more than they can chew as well. Like, don't be lazy. Don't be lazy with your goals, but also make them, we love the SMART goals thing, but it's a real thing when you put them into action and you realize that you are constantly biting off more than you can chew, and it diminishes your sense of like accomplishment. So you need to kind of make them a little bit smaller, a little bit more easily digestible so that you can.
And it's, for me, there's a lot of things I need to do. And there's a couple of things I need to do that I really don't like. I hate sales. And I just like to take care of people. And I don't like the part where I have to do the sales part.
Yeah.
So I'll stay very busy doing all these other things. And it's down to the time where, okay, now I need to bite the bullet and just get comfortable with those conversations.
Yeah.
And man, it's hard.
Yeah, it's so hard. And especially when there's so many ways to kind of, metaphorically skin the snake as well. And you're just like, well, which way is the best way for me? And
the way I can do this without actually talking to somebody.
Yeah, I always joke. I'm like, I just want the mountain to come to me. Right? I just want them. I just want everybody to fall in my lap and go, Aileen, I need you. But that's not real. I need you, Aileen. I want you. I'm willing to pay your fees, but that's not reality. And the reality is that, again, you have to have those individual conversations or communications with, potential people, so that potential clients, they're all people, potential clients, so that you can make them feel comfortable with their investment. And, that's kind of like that human experience piece that I talk about a fair bit, and, really kind of connecting with that human. And then I think, our generation got brought up in the 80s where there was like filthy, dirty, salesman kind of cliches around. And I think, it still sticks with me. And I think, but I'm not that. So why am I scared of being that?
Right.
But I think also because my target audience is probably about my age as well. So they also are very aware of that.
It's like there in our heads. And can you just talk a little bit more about that? Because I love in your program, you talk about the customer experience and the employee experience, but then you delve into the human experience. And talk a little bit more about that, because I really like it. But what does that mean?
I think, we are all human, right? At the end of the day, there might be differing levels of capacity or capability or intelligence or emotional intelligence, which is my more favorite thing. I've said to my son, if you've got the choice between emotional intelligence and intelligence, stick with EQ. It'll get you just as far eventually. But the reality is that, so customer experience been around for ages, been around for at least 15 years. It's still a baby. Employee experience, the concept and disciplines of employee experience, same deal, about the same time. And so when I started really kind of working towards, okay, I've got a PR background as well, right? And when I started working for myself, everybody does this, I'm sure. They want to be everything to everybody. And so I was saying in a podcast recently, I have purposefully chosen to leave my very original website, Meraki Business Solutions, as is. I'm not going to touch it. I've thought about getting rid of it, thought about updating it, but then I thought, you know what? It's the perfect case study to show what happens when we go into business for ourselves in the beginning. And it is thirsty, right? It's thirsty. I am everything to everybody. And over the years, what I started to do was realize, actually, no, I mean, I love PR and I love communication, but ultimately where I get all, like tizzed up is over customer, employee, and human experience. And it wasn't so much the human, but when I was starting to kind of work towards this more of a niche area, I'm fully aware of the customer experience, fully aware of the employee experience. And I literally sat at my dining table with some friends over dinner, and one of my friends showed me a book called Let's Talk About Sex. And not that sex, right? CEX. So it's pronounced, I didn't do it, right? I proliferate it, but I didn't make it up. So people are like, oh, and I'm like, I know, I didn't make it up. I wish I did though. But it's pronounced sex, right? So customer, CX is C, and then you got employee, E. So it's CEX, sex, right? That's just the way it is. Anyway, so I was saying to him, I love the concept, right? I love that it's a little bit risque and getting your attention, because it did. Out of all the CX books, that's the one that got his attention. And I said, but there's just something missing for me. Like I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Literally 3 days later, doing something mundane, I went, oh my God, the human experience. Because what I really am passionately about is remembering who we serve, and remembering that every single person that we deal with, whether it's online and you see them, touch them, or whether it's in person and you see them, touch them, feel them, have that kinesthetic kind of experience, or online where you don't see them, you don't touch them, you don't feel them, you are still dealing with a human. And even to the point where, I was talking to a technology company recently, and they build bots. They build AI bots. And one of the questions that got asked was, would you want your AI bot to show empathy? Now, I said yes. A lot of people went, no, that would be condescending. And I said, actually, I think if you remember that an AI bot still comes from a human. So what that does is it tells me that whoever built that bot understands the human experience, right? And I get a lot of people now telling me, I don't want to deal with people. I don't want to deal with people, which I find really actually quite sad. I'm like, there's some people that just drive me up the wall, and especially when I'm driving, I'm the worst road rager. But generally speaking, I love humans and I'm fascinated by them. And I think if businesses were to comprehend, or big brands, small brands, whoever, were to really have a deep comprehension of what it means to be a human, then their experience would actually shift. People would stop feeling like, there's an ad here in Australia for an insurance company that says you're a member, not a number. And to me, that says, okay, well, that's a slow take on, implementing a human experience. But they acknowledge that in the insurance industry, you are treated more like just a number than a human being.
Right.
So this insurance company is making a change to not treat you like a number, and to remember that you are a real human being who, if you're my parents, we had a massive storm here the other week. The outside of their living area collapsed in and fell to the ground. So if they were being treated like a number, no one would care. But ultimately, thankfully, they are now with an insurance company who does care and who remembers that they're a human being and they need that space and it has to be safe. And, every person that's come out to work on that storm damage has been a really wonderful advocate of the human experience. They've treated them with empathy. They've been timely. They've been helpful. They have followed up and made sure that my parents are still safe and okay. So all of those things, because they remember that they're a human being.
So it makes me want to ask you, as you're talking about this, I think I like that is with my business, I want it to be a very boutique business, and it's a lifetime relationship. And it's been interesting because I come across those people who are just wanting to have a transactional relationship.
Yeah.
Like, well, I just wanted you to tell me the answer to this, or I just want you to give me the plan and then I'll go do it myself. And I'm starting to realize that that's not the fit that I want. And I like that you're talking about this human experience, because it's not just for the client, but it's for me, and how we come together is I want more than just a transactional. I want to create a relationship that helps someone really achieve their lifestyle they want, not just did they get the cheapest mutual fund or did they get the cheapest insurance. Those are like one-off things. The question is, are we creating something together that's better than what you had before? And I love what you're saying. That to me, that's like what this human experience is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I'm coming across the same thing. I get people messaging me and saying, can you just help me with this one piece of, issue that we have with our customer experience? Or can you just help me with this mapping activity? Or, and it's quite transactional. And I think that is also, I blame COVID. I love COVID. COVID has done so many cool things for my life. So, I'm actually grateful for the weird 2 years that we've had. But a lot of people have become really, their resilience has gone the complete opposite way. And like I said before, more and more people are like, I don't want to deal with people. That I'm finding is becoming more prevalent in, customers saying, oh, I just want this. I just want this. And they're nearly like, trying to avoid any commitment, right? Like, I can't commit to anything. And I'm like, all right, we'll just, and I'm not really like, even when I was on Tinder, I wasn't really the kind of Tinder girl. So, I kind of think, I'm more about building a community. I'm more about building relationships. I'm more about that longevity and keeping you feeling supported. But what I've really had to learn very, very quickly is that sometimes that might just be, that transaction might just be the opportunity to show the people that are asking for help that they can get the help, but then I'm also still here when they need me. And so it's still an opportunity for a human experience, because ultimately people end up going, well, she gave me the help. It was reasonably frictionless and she didn't irritate me afterwards, and she gave me good advice and it worked. So maybe if I need advice again, I'll go back to her. And I kind of now start to think it's just a really weird, maybe more drawn out way of building a relationship.
Right.
Like,
Aileen, our time is just flying by. So I would like you, just for everybody listening, if you had one last takeaway concept that you want people to walk away from knowing about what you do and what they can walk away and do, can you share that?
I think what you can walk away and do is have a deeper understanding of what even just customer experience is, right? And understand that customer experience, if you had a pie, and I know Americans love pie, if you had a pie, a lot of people consider, when I say customer experience, they hear customer service. Customer experience is a pie where customer service is just one slither of that pie, right? So customer experience encapsulates things like the strategy of your business, the design of your customer experiences, and that goes for your employee experiences as well. The culture in your brand, the way that you measure everything in your business, and so much more. So if you imagine that pie is all of those components, and customer service is really just one piece of that pie, and educating yourself. And feel free to follow me on my socials. I just talk about customer experience all the time, so you can do that and learn more about customer experience and how it positively impacts the way that customers feel about you and how they are drawn to want to come back, not have to, right? We don't want them to have to come back because you're the only choice they have. We want them to want to come back. And that's why I say, delivering experiences worthy of their loyalty. And that's what customer experience is.
Aileen, thank you so much. I think we could talk all day. This just flown by. So for everybody who's watching, this is going to be posted out there, and you'll be able to share it with your friends. You'll be able to go back. We'll make sure we post the contact information so that you can get in touch with Aileen, because you can tell she's amazing. She understands that it's much more, the transactions are going to be part of it and the things that we do, but it's how we all feel about it and connect that's going to really make something powerful and awesome. So thank you, everybody for being here. Aileen, thank you so much for being a guest on the show.
Thanks, Tara.
Can't wait to hear about everybody's success, and we'll talk with you next time. Bye, everyone.